Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TMRP, the Metropolis Radio Podcast. And this week we are talking all about the Academy Awards, more commonly referred to as the Oscars. And what we're going to explore is why they really aren't that important in terms of the film industry at large. And maybe it's time for most people to just move on from them entirely for a multitude of reasons. So I've dilly-dallied enough during this intro, so let's start talking about the Academy Awards. And I want to go ahead and I want to start off by talking about the results of the most recent Oscars that have just come to pass, and that would be the 2021 Oscars, in case if you're watching this sometime in the future. Now, I want to start off with Best Animated Feature and what movie won that. And does anyone want to take a wild fucking guess? I'll give you a hint. The parent company has a mouse as their mascot. Yeah, Soul won Best Picture. Surprise, surprise. A Pixar movie won Best Animated Feature. And you don't understand, at the Academy Awards, if a Pixar movie is nominated for Best Animated Feature, then it is the law that it has to win no matter what. Come hell or high water. No matter how bad it is either. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think Ratatouille won Best Animated Feature, and that movie was utter dog shit. And I would even go as far as to say that, you know, Disney in particular basically buys this award every year, so Best Animated Feature Film is really not that special. And I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. It actually ties into a completely different point that I'm going to make later. Now, the Best Picture winner was Nomadland. I had actually never heard of that movie. I actually had to look up what the hell it was. And it basically was a coming-of-age story about a woman in her 60s losing everything in the Great Recession, or the Great Depression. It was one of the two. And living the life of a nomad. So basically, the typical type of movie that wins, which is like a bullshit coming-of-age story. You know, ooh, big fucking deal. And then you get Best Director. That was Chloe Zhao, director of Nomadland. And a little fun fact, she's also directing Eternals for Marvel. So could that whole thing be Disney buying the award to prop up Chloe Zhao's name simply for marketing? I know people gave Harvey Weinstein a lot of shit in the 90s for basically buying Academy Awards, but at this point in time, I think we all know that the Oscars are bought and paid for. That has been proven time and time again over the last 10, 15 years, so, you know, who really cares at this point? Now, best actor, this one, like, genuinely got me. And, just to let everybody know, I actually looked these up online. I actually didn't watch the Oscars because I couldn't be bothered. Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor for The Father, and The Father is yet another quote-unquote coming-to-terms movie. So you have a coming-of-age movie, now you have a coming-to-terms, which is basically the guy at the end of his life. And the only movie like that I genuinely enjoyed was The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman and, what's his nuts? Jack Nicholson. But no, the reason why this, like, largely shocked me is because I was betting that it would go to Chadwick Boseman. It did not, and for one simple reason. It's because Chadwick Boseman died in 2020. Not of COVID. I think it was it pancreatic cancer that got him, or colon cancer? I don't remember which one, but I know it was some form of cancer. You know, I was thinking that they were gonna do like another Heath Ledger. You know, 2009 Academy Awards, he wins Best Supporting Actor for The Dark Knight, and I've gone on and said this over the years, long before I started doing this, that if Heath Ledger did not die in 2009, he would not have gotten the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for his portrayal of the Joker, in my opinion. It's only because he died that year, but. You know, typically that's what the Academy does, is if an actor dies, they will usually give the award posthumously. So, you know, why it didn't go Chadwick Boseman, who knows? And then you have Best Leading Actress was Frances McDormand from Nomadland. Surprise, surprise. But this ties into my larger point overall, in that the Oscars don't really reflect the market conditions. the most popular stuff never gets nominated anymore. And a perfect example, why was Extraction with Chris Hemsworth not nominated for anything? Despite the fact that that was one of, if not the most successful streaming movie in 2020. But yet that got absolutely no nominations. And don't tell me that, it's because it didn't play in theaters. The Academy Awards changed their guidelines this time that, that they don't have to play in a theater for a week. Whatever the new guidelines are, I don't know, and I really don't care. But I do remember them coming out and saying that, that they were forced to change their guidelines. Otherwise, only like 10 movies would qualify, for the Oscars, and also The Old Guard was also not nominated for anything. Again, another very popular streaming movie not nominated for one thing. And all of these movies that were popular with audiences just don't get nominated anymore. And unfortunately, I can't think of any more off the top of my head right now because I didn't watch a lot of movies that released in 2020. I've been watching a lot of older stuff more recently. But let's get on to why the Oscars don't matter. And I'm going to start off with a subsection. There's going to be 3 subsections in total of basically what typically wins. And like I said, the winners never truly reflect the market. And it used to be, 2 or 3 of the top grossing movies of a given year would at least get nominated. I'm not saying that they would have won, but they at least would have gotten nominated. Nowadays, that's the exception. And the one exception I think of off the top of my head is Joker. That was at the 2020 Academy Awards. And I actually make the argument that they were forced to nominate that because it was too popular. And over the last few years, they have delegitimized their own awards. So, what better to get the audience on board than to start nominating, a top grossing movie here and there again. And I would even go as far as to argue that the Best Picture Oscar is quite problematic, for one simple reason. A year is simply not enough time to judge if a movie was the best picture of that particular year. Because there's a lot of movies that come out that, were either very of the time or were just complete fads. And I'll give you a perfect example, which was, Avatar versus The Hurt Locker. This also ties back into top 2 to 3 grossing movies of the year would at least get nominated. Avatar was the top grossing movie of 2009 and was nominated for Best Picture. The Hurt Locker, which of all the nominees that year was the lowest grossing nominee that year, actually won. And I'm not saying that Avatar, deserved Best Picture, because let's be honest, Avatar is basically just Dances with Wolves in space. That's all it is. There's nothing any more special to it. And, tying back to what typically wins, does anyone remember a movie called The Artist? That it won Best Picture at the 2012 Academy Awards. Personally, I've never seen it, nor do I care to see it. And then you had the whole kerfuffle at the 2006 Academy Awards with, Crash winning over the movie Brokeback Mountain. And I'm going to go a little more into that in just a few moments. But typically, what happens, like, what are the movies that typically win? The movies that typically win are either, like, coming-of-age stories or super low independent movies like The Hurt Locker, which, I mean, there was nothing to The fucking Hurt Locker. And I've sat through that movie 3 times, and I don't know how I forced myself to sit through it, 2 more times. One time just recently within the last couple of years, and another time, like, when I was in high school. Or they always have political or social messaging to it, and the one I think of right off the top of my head is Spotlight, because we have to totally bring up the fact that Catholic churches and priests love to have sex with small boys. That totally was relevant in 2016, despite the fact that was revealed like 30 years prior to that fucking movie coming out. Or the movies are just so artsy fucking fartsy, like The Artist, that like only like 5 people in the world genuinely give a shit about them. So that's just one problem with the Oscars. Why they don't matter, because they typically, the winners, especially of like the Best Picture, winners typically do not reflect the the market and what was popular with audiences at the time. Again, those are always the exceptions, not the rule. And I'll give you another perfect example. I just thought of this example. 1978 Academy Awards. Star Wars gets nominated for Best Picture. Does anyone remember the movie that won Best Picture in 1978? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't Star Wars. Had enough time? Well, the movie that beat Star Wars for Best Picture was Annie Hall, starring Woody Allen, also written and directed by Woody Allen. Yet, how many people have genuinely seen Annie Hall? Because most people, the only people that I know that have seen Annie Hall are basically the film school snobs that think it's like the greatest movie ever made, and it's like, yeah, okay, dude, whatever, but point being, a movie like Star Wars with as much cultural relevance as it had back in the late 70s, and still has some cultural relevance today, didn't even win Best Picture at the time. But here's another reason why the Oscars really don't matter. And it's all the fucking political speeches that they make at every fucking award show every fucking year now. Actors get up there and they always preach about, they will always do this, every single one over the last few years is always, you'll get climate change, talked about. It doesn't matter if Leonardo DiCaprio is up there or some other jackass. They're always gonna sit up there and preach about climate change and we have to save our planet, despite the fact that they all fly around in private jets. But you just need to conveniently forget about that. They're allowed to fly around in their private jets, but you better drive that electric car. You better drive that electric car if you live out in the middle of fucking Wisconsin, where there's only like 2 charging stations and they're 100 miles apart from each other. But it's all about conserving the planet. You always also gender pay gaps, yet another one. I remember that. And it's always the women that bitch about gender pay gap, despite the fact that they make millions more than any normal person will ever make in their lifetime. It was so funny. I remember Jennifer Lawrence bitching about the gender pay gap, despite the fact that she made twice as much money on the movie Passengers as Chris Pratt did. I think Jennifer Lawrence got paid like $25 or $26 million to be in that shitty movie that nobody saw. And then here comes Chris Pratt. He's only paid like 10 or 11 million by comparison. Again, nothing, 10 to 11 million dollars, nothing to scoff at for most people, but still, Jennifer Lawrence, you're going to bitch about gender pay gap, but then make twice as much money as your other lead. Where does the gender pay gap really lie? But again, I digress. I'm not going down this rabbit hole. Oh, you'll also hear about feminism, and I'm also not gonna go down that rabbit hole, because there's a lot of bullshit that you're gonna hear at the fucking awards ceremony now. And with the and it really started. I think it really started after 2014, 2015. Because according to their logic, me seeing the Ray Rice video in the elevator, suddenly just made me want to start going out and and clocking women and and knocking them out cold just because it was Tuesday, according to their logic. But I'm again not going to go down that rabbit hole. I remember even Spike Lee a couple years ago was actually reading his speech off of a fucking note card when I think he won Best Director for BlacKkKlansman. It was some award for BlacKkKlansman. I don't remember what it was, but you could literally see him just holding out the note card and actually like reading down, and holding the mic. So it's like they don't even memorize all of this bullshit. They actually have to start. They either have to read off a cue card or off of a note card right in front of them. Otherwise, they're not going to remember a damn thing. And remember, if you're Meryl Streep, you better make sure that you call Harvey Weinstein a god. That shit was funny. I don't remember what Academy Awards that was, but, boy oh boy, did that moment not age very well. And I do remember at one point during the history of the Academy Awards, being very political with your acceptance speeches was actually very, very frowned upon. And I would argue that Marlon Brando ruined his career by doing it in the early 70s. He had a Native American Indian woman accept his Best Actor award in 1973. Yes, when he won for The Godfather. And it was all, and I remember it was all about protect the reservations and, you know, send us more money, blah, 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 whatever it was. That did not go over well at the time, given the time and place. And a lot of people pinpoint to that particular moment as to what ruined Marlon Brando's acting career. It wasn't just the fact that he was difficult to work with, because, you know, if you're, you know, you can be the biggest jackass on the planet. As long as you're making them money, they're going to keep putting up with you. But, you know, pulling that stunt back in the early 70s was very, very frowned upon. But nowadays, Marlon Brando would still be at the top of the fucking mountain if he were to pull that today. And another one I just thought of that as I was recording this was the whole 2016 hashtag Oscars so white controversy. Anyone remember that shit? That's the one that completely delegitimized the Oscars for me. And basically, to sum it up in a nutshell, for those that don't remember, it was started by Jada Pinkett Smith because she was mad that her husband wasn't nominated for Best Actor for his Oscar bait movie called Concussion. I'll give you a while. I'll leave you to wildly guess who her husband is. And to close off this section, you know, normal people are just sick and fucking tired of the rich and spoiled telling them how to live their lives and what they should and shouldn't like. And it really is that simple. Oh, what was it? The 2018 was it 2018 Academy Awards? It was whenever the movie what was it? With Oprah, Wrinkle in Time. It was right when A Wrinkle in Time was opening, and they had like a screening like at the next door, and they brought all those people out for the Academy Awards, and you start seeing like every person in the room like freaking out, you know, oh my god, real people, and Jennifer Aniston like literally like reaching out like wanting to touch him. It was fucking creepy. And it was fucking weird, but it's like, this is how insulated all of those fucking people are. It's like, normal people, it's like, oh my god, normal people! Hi! As I try to awkwardly fucking touch you. Oh, that shit was funny. But yeah, I think that was 2018, because I remember it was Jimmy Kimmel that hosted. It might have been 2017, I don't remember, nor do I give a shit to remember. And the final reason why the Oscars don't matter, my final subsection of it, is, you know, I just want to go over the famous quote-unquote snubs that have happened throughout time, and the one that immediately pops to my mind that people still talk about to this day is Jack Nicholson losing Best Supporting Actor to Gene Hackman in '93. But remember that, what was the movie? I think it was, it was Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood's Last Western, nominated for all the major Academy Awards. They wanted that movie to basically sweep them all. So let's just ignore Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men. And, you know, most people watching the Oscars that year wanted to see Nicholson win, but no, it went to Gene Hackman for Unforgiven. Another one that people like to point out is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And specifically when that movie lost the Best Visual Effects Award. Because if you remember back in 1999, CGI was not a thing. You know, the Phantom Menace had special effects that, for the time, were brand new and cutting edge. Nowadays, nowadays the CGI hasn't aged very well, but that's just the nature of CGI. But how did that not get Best Visual Effects, despite the fact that those special effects were very, very cutting edge at the time? Then you have James Cameron losing to Catherine Bigelow in 2010, for that was Best Director. Obviously James Cameron directed Avatar that year, and then Catherine Bigelow directed The Hurt Locker. And Catherine Bigelow still being the only woman to ever win Best Director. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I don't think Catherine Bigelow wins Best Director if James Cameron also wasn't nominated. Because that whole thing literally felt like a fuck you to James Cameron. Hey, fuck you, we're going to give the award to your ex-wife. And that's pretty much what it was. Yes, fun fact for most people that, some people know this, but most people probably don't. Or most people probably know this, some don't. Is, James Cameron was married to Catherine Bigelow for a couple years. So yeah, that whole thing of, James Cameron losing Best Director to Catherine Bigelow really felt like a fuck you, we're going to give it to your ex-wife kind of thing. Another one people like to point out is Brokeback Mountain losing to Crash for Best Picture in 2006. I would even go out on a limb and say none of the nominees that year were really that great. I mean, you had Capote, that was with Philip Seymour Hoffman. You also had Munich. I forgot about Good Night and Good Luck. That was George Clooney directed. Again, I would argue there weren't really that many, decent nominees that year. It's like that particular year, like Crash felt like the safest choice that they could absolutely go with, and they just went with it. Another big snub was Beauty and the Beast losing Best Picture to Silence of the Lambs in 1992, and this was the point I was trying to get back to in the beginning with regards to Best Animated Feature. People forget that there was a stretch in the late 80s going into the 90s, for like 8 or 9 years. Like, the top grossing movie, like, one of the top 5 grossing movies of that particular year were animated movies, but none of them ever won Best Picture. And so what did the Academy Awards do? Beauty and the Beast has gone down. Disney's Beauty and the Beast, 1991 animated movie, has gone down as the first animated movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture but not win. So the Academy Awards in the early 2000s decided we're going to create a Best Animated Feature category that, as we all know, is basically bought and paid for by Disney. If a Disney animated movie is up, or if a Pixar movie is up, the Pixar movie is going to win each and every time. If there isn't a Pixar movie, it's going to be the Disney animated movie that's going to win each and every time. Because you don't, like I said, you don't understand. It is the law that, a Disney animated movie or a Pixar movie will win Best Animated Feature every year, fucking regardless. Then this is one I want to bring up, not entirely a snub, but I didn't know where else to put it, was the 2002 Academy Awards, and specifically Denzel Washington winning Best Actor for Training Day and Halle Berry winning Best Actress for Monsters Ball. I would make the argument that they only won because that was the year that Sidney Poitier received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Academy Awards. Had that not happened, Denzel Washington and Halle Berry would not have received their Academy Awards that year. Halle Berry, her one and only. I don't remember. Did Denzel win? How many has Denzel won at this point? It's like 2 or 3. I don't remember. Nor do I care to really look it up right now. And then the final point, that I'm trying to get back to is, Harvey Weinstein basically buying all the awards in the 1990s. Many people point to that as, oh, that's when the Academy Awards delegitimized themselves. And for a lot of people, they did. Especially when the movie Shakespeare in Love beat Saving Private Ryan for Best Picture in 1999. Because let's be honest, of those two movies, what movie is still referenced and talked about to this day? I'll give you a hint. It ain't Shakespeare in fucking Love. Everyone is still talking about Saving Private Ryan, but yet Shakespeare in Love, beat it for Best Picture back in '99. And another point about the Oscars is they've had a lot of problems with hosts over the last 10 years. And I'm going to go ahead and make the argument for where ground zero truly lies. Ground zero for the problem with hosts happened at the 2013 Oscars with Seth MacFarlane, and it was one moment during his opening monologue. And most of you might know what I'm referring to, but in case if you don't, we saw your boobs. We saw your boobs. That whole fucking song, and how, he got so much shit from that. He came out like a couple days after that and basically said something to the effect of, I will never agree to host the Academy Awards ever again. And then after the Seth MacFarlane thing, it went Ellen DeGeneres in 2014. Again, a safe choice for hosting the Oscars. Neil Patrick Harris in 2015, another safe choice for hosting the Oscars. The funniest one was actually Chris Rock in 2016. Because like I said, the 2016 Oscars was the quote-unquote Oscars so white controversy. Now, rumor and innuendo, I can't independently verify this, but what I heard floating around at the time was that Chris Rock actually wanted to quit hosting the Academy Awards, but obviously with the whole Oscars so white controversy, he was basically forced into staying. Again, I cannot independently verify that fact, so please take that with a huge grain of salt. That is just rumor, because Chris Rock has never come out and actually verified any of that. And then remember, Jimmy Kimmel hosted 2 years in a row. And I remember the 2017 Oscars, the one year where something actually like legitimately funny happened, and I didn't even bother to watch it that year. It was when Moonlight won Best Picture, but they handed Warren Beatty the wrong card. Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. It was genuinely a funny moment. So finally, something interesting finally happens, and I didn't even give enough of a shit to really watch it. But I remember watching the replay, laughing my ass off. So I basically went through from 2013 to 2018, but now we get up to 2019, and I remember that was the year they went through a myriad of hosts. Most people turning it down, and then they finally get to the point where they secure Kevin Hart. But then he quit a few days later because of some old tweets. I think he made a couple of gay jokes back in like 2009, 2008, whenever they were. And even after that, they could not find anybody willing to host the Oscars that year. So they basically had no choice but to go without a host. And they tried to spin it as a positive thing, where it's like, oh, it's gonna be, a fun and creative night and blah 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 blah. But please forget about the fact that we can't find anyone willing to host it. And the only other time prior to that was the 1989 Academy Awards, and people forget about this. The 1989 Academy Awards did go without a host, but that was entirely by choice. 30 years later, 2019 Academy Awards, they had no choice but to go without a host. And then finally, I want to ask the question: Are more people tuning out of the Academy Awards? This year, are more people tuning out? And this is why I waited a couple days to make this. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to wait for the ratings to come out, and the ratings are in. Less than 10 million people watched the Oscars when they aired Sunday night. That was down by over 50% from last year. And I thought last year's numbers were low. This year's numbers were even lower. And it's not exclusive to the Academy Awards. The Grammys had a ratings drop that drastic, about 50 to 60%. The Golden Globes ratings sank by 60% compared to 2020. So you're seeing that it's happening to all of these major award shows. And in my opinion, people are just done with them entirely, because who the fuck cares? It's just rich people giving themselves awards and spouting bullshit politics, telling you what you should and shouldn't like and how you should live your life, but no, never hold us by our own standards type bullshit. And if you want to know, if you want to see the evidence for our more people tuning out of award shows entirely, look at the 2021 ratings. I mean, they sank even lower than they did the year prior, and they were already going on a decline year over year for the past few years. And guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I've pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. Again, just to sum up this whole spiel, you can't determine Best Picture of a particular year until enough time has passed. Again, 5 to 10 years is the typical range, because that's where you can see, has this particular movie aged well, has it not? Who knows? Top grossing movies typically don't win and now aren't nominated anymore for any major awards outside of technical ones. Again, there's a couple of exceptions, but again, they're exceptions, they're not the rule. And then you have the faux outrage over the Oscars host, starting with Seth MacFarlane back in 2013. And now you can't get anybody to agree to them. And finally, people are just sick and tired of being lectured to. So I'm going to truly end it here, guys. And as you know, if you follow me for a while, I am really bad at signing off. So I will just see you guys next time.